Alright, it's time for 3 of 3, Mr. Mage, Mr. Malrik. Malrik is a infernal esotericist as far as we can see. He is a mage dealing magic damage. Okay, so what is he all about? The hero gains a 20% damage increase. Okay, straight up, talent, quick, simple, 20% damage increase, we take it. Grants Wizard's Rune to the next hero deployed in attack range, which is reverse of how Wings of Grace works, because Wings of Grace deploys it on someone that is already deployed. Wizard's Rune increases attack, defense and HP of the rune bearer by 10%. This effect can stack with other effects. So we're looking at a attack, defense and HP invigoration. So overall, if you had a Wings of Grace set and a Malrik, we're looking at a 22% attack increase possible on a single character. This effect can only be triggered once per deployment. When the Wizard's Rune is granted to an allied platform hero, Malrik's Fire form, which is initial form specializing in single target magic damage, will be replaced with the Frost form, which reduces damage by 25% and converts all attacks to AOE damage. So again, we're looking at another dual unit. We're looking at another unit that can deal two things. So we're looking at another mage that this time, instead of with the unit we talked about before, the bear and bow lady, we now have someone who can deal single target and AoE damage, depending on either you granting the buff to a platform or to a ground hero. So is this Ingrid 2.0? Who knows? We shall get into it. So magic attack deals 100% damage one time to one enemy in range, going up to 120%. And if he were in the Frost form, he would be dealing 120% damage to probably up to 5 enemies, maybe 10, maybe all enemies in range. Who the hell knows? Before we get further into this, stat-wise, we have a rather decent low cost at 19, rather high attack at 4600 for a mage, normal mage attack interval, and anything else seems to be normal too. Elemental Covenant. While in the same form, every 5 basic attacks triggers either a Fire Blast, dealing 220% damage to one enemy, inflicting burning, or an Ice Storm, which deals 25% AoE damage 1 time per second to the target and 5 surrounding enemies for 4 seconds with a 50% chance to inflict Winter's Bite. So Winter's Bite is back on the menu, and also we're looking at a 4 times increase in damage, so a 45% AoE, as well as a 400% single target every 5 basic attacks. Okay. Rune Mastery. When casting the ultimate, restores 10% rage to heroes granted with Wizard's Rune, which it seems like is only 1, maybe that changes during the ultimate, and permanently increases the hero's attack by 3. This attack increase can be gained, by 5. This attack increase can be gained up to 5 times, meaning a 25% attack increase. If no one is granted with runes, restores an extra 5% rage for the hero. So if he's truly solo, it's probably going to be both rage. So if he's truly solo, he can give himself 10% rage. So if nobody's in his range, interesting. And also a 25% attack increase. What is the ultimate? Elemental Ascension. When the ultimate is activated, increases the hero's attack by a further 30% for 15 seconds. During this time, transforms the hero's basic attack into either Fireball, which deals 80% to one enemy in range 3 times and inflicts burning, which changes to 100%, so a 300% damage total basic attack during the ultimate for 20 seconds, or to Blizzard, deals 120% AoE damage, or better said 140%, to up to 5 enemies in range and inflicts Winter's Bite guaranteed at a 100% chance. This is very, very nasty. So here we are having a look at the fireballs. You can see these like 3 fireballs flying. Maybe we can also see the Winter's form. That would be quite interesting. So we have this kind of like tail with the red aura. No, we can only see the fire form. Okay. Let's read that once again. Grants Wizard's Rune to the next hero deployed in range, can only be triggered once per deployment. But to be fair, this makes me feel like maybe his Awakenings allow us to give more Wizard's Runes. So let's check them out. A1 Enhancement. Elemental Covenant is enhanced. Fire damage deals 60% more damage. So and also inflicts a vulnerability magic of 10%, and Ice Storm inflicts freeze on enemies, reduces damage interval by 3 seconds, and increases the chance to inflict Winter's Bite to 70%. Okay, so right here it would be 480%, and here it would be a 75% chance for Winter's Bite rather than a 50% one, as well as him attacking 0.3 seconds faster, because it said reduces attack interval. Okay. A2 is your standard 300 attack. A3 increases speed boost gained from attack speed by 20%. This is new. This is something we've never seen before, at least in this wording. And this seems like this hero makes 20% more of any attack speed you give to him. So it's simple math, as in you give him 100 attack speed, he treats it like 120. You give him 400 attack speed and he treats it like 480. You give him 600 attack speed and he treats it like 720. A4 is 8% penetration, and the A5, the hero gains an extra 10% damage increase. When either the hero or a hero granted with Wizard's Rune dies, he applies the Wizard's Incantation, which prevents the death and dispels all debuffs on them and restores 50% of their max HP. So no multiple grants of Wizard's Rune, but maybe Wizard's Rune is something that's going to be placed down by other units. It's because of this wording right here. And 5% rage to heroes granted with Wizard's Rune. Makes me wonder. But overall, what are we looking at? We're looking at a very nasty, probably very strong unit in its own right. So you have the choices, depending on the stage, to either use them as a single target unit or to use them as a AOE focused unit. He is the only one in the game who can further percentage base increase after deployment. So let's say you put in a Wukong with 20k attack and you apply a Wizard's Rune to him. That Wukong should be increasing his attack by 10%, so from 20k to 22k. So post deployment attack, defense and HP increase, as well as single target and AOE forms, with the single target form being the less impressive, the not so fancy one, which just has single target damage as well as the chance to inflict burning, and overall him also gaining an attack increase every time he ults, gaining a rage increase to himself or a further rage increase if he's alone. And then the Blizzard form, which is a bit more interesting, I would say, and that is because this Blizzard form not only does it do AOE damage, but it also has either during ultimate a guaranteed Winter's Bite infliction, or during the Elemental Covenant outside of the ultimate a 50% Winter's Bite infliction during the Ice Storm, which could go up to a 75%. So what we are looking at is a more than reliable source of Winter's Bite. Once again, as a reminder for those of you that are still a bit confused on why this is so good, let's pick a hero that inflicts Winter's Bite. Winter's Bite, once again, has the chance to get the biggest slow in the entire game, which is a 75% slow, which can be either achieved through Greed or through Winter's Bite. There's no other slows currently that are 75% as far as I'm concerned. Maybe it's Beelzebub. Maybe Beelzebub has 75% slow too. Not 100% certain. And when reaching 3 stacks, you're inflicting a freeze for 2 seconds. So not only do you slow, but you also stack it slowly up to the point where you freeze, and then you stack it back up, and then you freeze and you stack. So Winter's Bite is basically movement speed reduction 2.0. Current applicators of Winter's Bite are Immerit, Anora with Immerit Bond skill, and Lynx. those 3 are the only Winter Spite applicators at the moment. And then if we get ourselves our hands on, I think, let me remember his name, Malrik, right? If we get our hands on Malrik, we're looking at another unit that can inflict Winter Spite. I find it interesting that he has a sword. You don't really see mages with a sword. We are looking at Faelin, the Buckthorn Druid, our very next epic apparently. She is a esotericist. Faelin controls toxins to eliminate all enemies that stand in her path, which already makes me very suspicious because poison is based on the attack of the unit that inflicts the poison. She being a rare unit doesn't really epic unit doesn't instill a lot of confidence in her stats. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, we're looking at 3200 attack. That really isn't all that great, but what is great is her range, because this range is, if I'm not wrong, Ajax range. We're looking at Ajax range as well as the esotericist faction. So before we judge her, okay, she attacks very slowly, like super slow. It's Satram slash Fenris type of slow, so she attacks super slow. Her attack seems rather low, but her range is incredibly big. Okay, what can we learn about her? So, when inflicting poison, which is deal 5% continuous magic damage per second, basically based upon her, stacking up to 10 times, and poison effects from different sources can coexist. Whatever, giving us this whole scenario here. Then we have, she's dealing AOE damage, which explains her attack being a bit lower and this range being so huge. We're dealing 110% AOE damage to up to 5 enemy targets. Here for Spectral Rod, when an enemy inflicted with poison by this hero dies, deals 150% going up to 230% AOE damage to up to 8 surrounding enemies. Ultimate Virulent Bile deals 100% damage 3 times, goes up to 140, so 140% damage 5 times in total to random enemies within a short time, inflicting 1 stack of poison with each hit. So at least at the moment, without awakenings, the only part of a kit that doesn't inflict poisons is the ultimate, and it only inflicts 5 stacks. Important to judge an epic is, yes, the base kit might look not as impressive, but keep in mind epics are expected to be brought to A5 pretty much ASAP, so we have to count these epics. So the ultimate has a 30% chance to instantly restore 50% rage upon use. This is very important, and this is something I've missed, I gotta admit. Her rage is very, 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 very low. Like, I think this is probably the lowest in the game, alongside like other rares, like for example Elukas. A 200 rage cost ultimate, that is super low. So 200 rage cost ultimate has a 30% chance to generate 100 rage after the ultimate finishes. Next up, 5% attack increase, very important. Then the AOE damage from the ultimate inflicts a 50% slow on affected enemies. Not Spectral Rod. Spectral Rod is probably the exploding thing, right? Yeah. So, when an enemy with poison inflicted by this hero dies, we are dealing 230%, and that one also slows. Doesn't seem that impressive. And when Spectral Rod is triggered, we are inflicting an extra stack of poison on affected enemies. So, poison single target? Hell no. Poison AOE attempt combination thing? Oh yeah. So we now have her being pretty much our AOE magic, just virulent poison spreader that benefits from, it does say it doesn't have to be killed by her, it just has to be poisoned by her, and then they'll pretty much virulently explode. So, her kit was pretty fast, and we are fast through with it, but something that isn't really talked about is obviously this hero right here. We were meant to be getting her all the way back in November. So what does Numera even do? It's been a while, and why is she so important to this? So when hitting an enemy with a basic attack, we're gaining a Grimstone Spike, which is launched at the enemies during the ultimate. She can have at maximum 4, and when the hero already has 4, rather than using her ultimate, she gains 50 rage instead. Here we have dealing 100% damage to one enemy in a the 100% to one enemy. This is the range. The stats are pretty decent, though on the bit lower side for a fighter. She is dealing magic damage. But the important part comes from right here, which is Poison Wood Branch. So inflict stun when at least 2 Grimstone spikes, so during the ultimate hit the same time, and we're triggering Toxic Surge. So Toxic Surge consumes the poison effects inflicted on the target and dealing a certain amount of magic damage based on the poison stacks consumed, up to 40 stacks. So the more poison stacks there are, the more damage we're dealing. Looking at this, you're also gaining a 2-second stun right after the Grimstone spikes, and the toxic damage goes up to 60%. So what we're looking at is Toxic Surge. Let's imagine the max case scenario, alright? In the most optimal of scenarios, we're looking at 40 times 60%. So that is 2,400%. If my math is correct. We're looking at 2,400% extra damage upon consuming all the poison stacks on an enemy. And then we have each Grimstone spike also inflicts Grimthorn roots. This roots damage will be increased by a further 12%, meaning that if you hit someone with your ultimate with a Grimstone spike, you are also applying a Grimthorn roots debuff, which cannot be dispelled and deals 30% of the caster's attack per 30% of the caster's attack per second as true damage. There we go. And then you have the final talked about ultimate. Immediately gains 2 extra Grimstone spikes and rapidly launches all spikes to random enemies in range. So you're going from a 4 to a 6 stack. You are reducing the skill cost down to 400, which is really low. And you're increasing the Grimstone spike damage by 280%. So why is this also important? That is because she also obviously has awakenings. Here's the hero for 20% of the true damage dealt by her roots. Then the A3 doing the ultimate increases damage by 25%. Grimstone spikes guarantee crit hits. And then here on the A5 you're ignoring magic rest. So overall she's kind of like this, okay, I take advantage of all your work. You've applied the poisons. Now let's get to madness. So she's taking all the poison stacks and turning it into like a big burst of damage. Who else is there that can poison? We're obviously going to go over these characters more briefly because we all know them really. And there's Dahlia. So Dahlia can inflict 2 stacks of poison with every of these cursed blossoms exploding. So that is like her main way of triggering poisons. You see that she'll also deal more damage to targets with poison at A3. But overall, Dahlia is a reliable source of poison application. Then we have someone that kind of fell off super hard, and that is our marksman, and that is Q. Q can also apply poisons, but the issue with his poisons really is the fact that they're weak, and the reason why they're so weak is because his base stats suck. His base stats suck, meaning a 5% continuous magic damage per second based on his stats is very terrible. Which leaves us with only, I think, one more really valid unit. But let's go over the other one first, and that has to be Araka. Where are you? Come on. Okay, let's just go to the piercers. Here we go. So Araka, Aracha, whatever you want to call her. We have Spider Toxin, where attacks have a 50% chance to inflict poison and spider bite. Enemies affected by spider bite will blah 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 deal more poison. Here you have the stun, more attacks, nothing with like a whole lot of poisons. Here increases the duration of poisons, and when enemies with spider bite dies, more damage and more poison. And then the one that might be the most attainable is Esme. Esme has a 50% chance of bouncing, her basic attack bouncing to an extra target, and then a 30% chance of that attack, or both of her attacks have a separate 30% chance to be inflicting poison once again. Then you have Venomous Eruption. When the hero's basic attack kills a target inflicted with poison, there's again a big AOE explosion. When activated, you're increasing the basic damage, and each basic attack lands 2 strikes, meaning there's twice the chance of summoning another blade that jumps to another target. and the second attack attacks a random enemy in range. Awakening wise, you have the stun, so nothing relevant to this whole poison scenario. Then you have the basic bounce, meaning more chance for poisons, getting an upgrade at the A3. And then here, increases the crit rate of basic attacks against targets inflicted with poison, meaning you could be building her with a 50% crit chance. As far as I know, these should be all the relevant sources of poison. Not quite. I guess there is one more that we have to name before we end this whole poison team showcase, I guess. And that is Nisold. Nisold, obviously, with his Nisold, with his basic attack, he throws a magic vial at an enemy, dealing damage and inflicting a burning or a poison for 5 seconds. During the ultimate, he gains infinite magic vials. Magic vials can trigger a reaction between poison and burning, causing him to inflict toxic fire, which is basically poisons stacked at 8 stacks at the same time. And also during these vials, he starts using alchemy that increases damage. He'll do either like more single target damage, more AOE damage. With the A1 he increases the duration. With the A3 there's more damage dealt by this toxic fire. And then with the A5 he has more attack speed. So these are all the poison units that we have in the game currently. What do I think about the viability of this hero? Honestly, not a whole lot. I feel like there's still like a couple things missing. This is probably not going to be ending up starting like a poison revelation, poison revolution. And also from the heroes we've taken a look at, it really is kind of a weird mix. We have Numera, who's basically single target focused. And then all the other units are AOE focused poison providers. So if you were to build a team for single target, you would have single target and AOE units in it. If you were to build a team focused on AOE, you would have single target and AOE units in it, making it unfortunate in all cases. So it is hard to say how good she's going to be, but to be fair, my expectations are very, very low. She might just end up in the same category as Kalina and Esme, unless they again intend to change poison once more, which seems somewhat realistic, or introduce another poison support, another poison booster, majorly uplifting this whole concept of poisons, because at the moment poison is worthless, and Liam with neurotoxin, which is percentage based damage, or percentage based true damage even, is still the GOAT. Peace! But hey, a Shadowcaster mastering both ice and fire who aids allies with runes while building a throne of glory through treachery and profit. He doesn't sound... The rogue of runes. Yeah, he doesn't... Okay, makes sense that he has a sword. He's kind of like... So he's not like this wise old guy. He's this old-ass cunning scammer. Very interesting. Let's see if we can learn anything special from his story. You want the truth? I say you a better story for half the price. Okay. Most insufferably brilliant bastard entire didn't happen overnight. It took decades of scheming, backstabbing, and audacious gambits. A hero, but he's a manipulator, so he's kind of like a lawful evil, lawful good, full-on chaos person. Contest way into the prestigious White Tower, which is the one we're facing in Chapter 9. A renowned institute of magical study, forged credentials, eager student, mastering the arcane arts. They found out he scammed them, but he was gone. He stole their money. He was a former mage, and yeah, it taught him that trust is just another resource to exploit. Sounds like a very likable guy. A love-struck halfling named Bindle Tendersnatch. Bimble, hopelessly smitten with the local baker's daughter, sought Malrik's expertise on camouflaging enhancements for what he delicately called a bit of discreet reconnaissance. Avid opportunists sold a ring of subtlety for a modest fee, if modest means 3 family heirlooms, a cart of turnips, and a pair of his mother's boots. Unfortunately for Bimble, the ring didn't make him invisible, it camouflaged only his clothes. The next morning, the baker's daughter found an entirely unclad Bimble tangled in the rose bushes outside of her window. he has aligned himself with 3 of Tyre's most powerful factions. He has Infernal Blast, he has a Terrier Order, and also the Nightmare Council. So he could have been our first triple faction unit, and he plays him like a puppeteer, just giving benefits to one while sowing discord for the others. And then, interesting, when the Infernal tasking with Torching Rifle Outpost, Mervyn increase Frozen Solid and sold the defrosting rights to the Esoteria Order. The Nightmare Council, hearing of the supposed betrayal, hired Malrik to sabotage the Order, a job he gleefully accepted, even as he ensured the Infernal Blast took the blame. The factions do remain oblivious to the extent of his duplicity, each believing they're his true allies. In the end, for all his irreverence, Malrik's power is undeniable. He's a force of chaos, cunning and creativity wrapped in a dark robe and even darker morals. And what's in his pipe, you asked? Secrets, friends. He's smoking secrets 24/7. So Malrik overall looks like a very strong hero. He looks like someone you at least want minimum 1 copy of your account. Awakening judge wise, this seems pretty nice, but it's again a case of getting him to A3 for his true power. And yeah, we see each other in the next one with the true tests. Peace!